impacts me very personally.
Now listen to Bernie tell you his Jewish sob story.
When I try to think about how I came to the views that I hold, there are two major factors, I think. Although one never knows, but I think there are two factors. Number one, I grew up in a family, didn't have a whole lot of money, and we struggled economically, and that made me aware that there are tens of millions of people who are in that same boat. And the second one is being Jewish. And I remember
it motivated him so much that Boinee didn't have a job till he was 40 years old. That's how much he decided to take on poverty. And go read how much money this cretin made in politics and how he'd pay his wife to run his campaign so they could keep campaign funds. And all the illegality that he perpetrated. Slickster, cutie pie. But see, you talk like Larry David, you give people shtick, you come off looking like an innocuous character off of Sesame Street, you can get away with anything, including murder.
As a kid, looking at these big picture books of World War II, and tears would roll down my cheeks when I saw what happened to the Jewish people. 6 million people were killed by Hitler. And, I think at a very...
20 million were killed by Stalin, and that was World War II. And 25 to 40 million were killed by Lenin and Stalin before World War II. And you know who birthed Bolshevism? Bernie the Bolshevik? Remember you got married in Moscow? Your holy altar? It's why the Mishpucha in America is so hateful of Putin, because he brought Russia back to Christ. He venerates the Russian Orthodox Church, as was the way under Tsar Nicholas. Let's listen to more Bernie's fairy tales.
Early age, even before my political thoughts were developed, I was aware of the horrible things that human beings can do to other people in the name of racism or white nationalism, or in this case, Nazism. And in the community that I lived in...
But he won't say Bolshevism, and he won't say Islamofascism.
There were people, you go downtown in your shop, people who had their tattoos from the concentration camps on their arm. A few years ago, my wife and I and my brother and his wife went back to the town in Poland where my father was born. And we were shown, people there were very, very nice, and we were shown an area where the Nazis had put in some 300 people and just mowed them down in a ditch. So that had how
that was by the Einsatzgruppen, and most of the killers were Polish. Those nice people you allude to, and you know why, Boinee? Because they hated Bolsheviks more than Nazis, and they hated Nazis, but they hated Bolsheviks more. Do you know who brought Bolshevism to Poland and Russia? Do I got to say it again, Bernie? You don't want to talk about that. Oh, and by the way, one little caveat here, Bernie. You remember all the Jews that don't like they don't want to own guns? They're all for gun control like you? You want government to have a monopoly on guns while you talk about what happened to your Mishpucha families in Poland and in Lithuania and in Ukraine, the new people that you love so much who were the most virulent Nazi Jew killers of all the different countries in Europe. The Ukrainians were the most eager to kill Jews. The Germans, all they had to do was say, well, would you mind rounding up some Juden? And that's it. They could have a coffee break. And within a matter of hours, every Jew in Kiev was rounded up and ready to get exterminated. These are the people that you're on the side of Pelosi about, the Ukrainians. And you call Trump a racist, you hypocrite son of a bitch? Trump has Jewish family. His grandchildren are Jewish. His daughter became Jewish, Boinee. How many goyim you got in your family, Boinee? Let's sing the song, Bernie. Allem goyim essen Dreck, du-da, du-da. Allem goyim essen Dreck, oh, do-da day. Yeah, the Gentiles eat. Yes, they eat that shit. And I'll sing that song till the end of time. Boinee. Stop lying.
Cruel people can be to other people in the names of racial superiority or etc. Certainly has been with me.
Like The Chosen.
Is why I will do everything I can to end the kind of divisiveness that Trump is fomenting.
Trump's fomenting it, huh?
People, and I don't care if you're black.
The best cowboys that ever lived. The best cowboys in the history of mankind are the Jews. Every country they go into, they dominate the Gentiles. They run all their money. They take over their legal situations. Every place you go, they control every nation's media. They did it in Germany. You know the cabaret song, Life is a Cabaret? Yeah, the Jews did that to Berlin and Vienna. They turned it into a perverted shithole. All of a sudden, everybody didn't know which way they were swinging. You think they were gender bending now? You should see the time of the late 20s and early 30s. Go Google it. Look at YouTube. Gender bending in Vienna and in Berlin. Don't believe me. And it was all underwritten by Jews. Pornography, 97% of the world's pornography is run by Jews. Okay? The Goyim buy it, the Jews make it. Just like the mob in New York. The Jews own it, the Italians build it, and the Irish run it. Ask any union worker in New York City, that's their slogan. So, Boinee, let's talk turkey, Boinee. Put the pastrami down. Put down the pastrami. Get away from that pickle and start telling the truth, because you're not fooling me, Boinee. I know all about you and your people. I'm telling you, you've been this way since the beginning of time. Read John chapter 844 in the Goyim book. Ever since I knew thee, Israel, to contend with God. Boinee, you'll never get it. So you came to a Christian country like America, and you started your wormwood attack from the day your people got off the boat. Read Ulysses S. Grant, General Order Number 11, dated December 17th, 1862, Oxford, Mississippi. The following order hereby expelling all German Jews from within the confines of this Union Army camp. By R.R. Rollins. I know it by heart, Bernie. And you know who some of those German Jews were? Those carpetbaggers that would pilfer food from the Union soldiers' sutlery and sell it to the starving Southern people for 1,000,000% profit? I'll tell you some of their names. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers. Yeah, that's right. They became so fat and so wealthy so quick, they just started building banks and dry goods stores all throughout the South and then eventually the North. How'd that happen, Boinee? And I'll tell you where they learned it. Their grandfathers told them, because they did it with Napoleon and Wellington. Wherever there's a war, go follow those stupid Goyim killing each other. And all the poor people that are starving and getting murdered, you can brutalize them and sell them foodstuffs so that their children don't die. You did that in Germany too after World War I. But you won't admit it. But history knows. There's a few of us that know the truth. I take the time to read history from both sides. So Bernie, it ain't as simple as what you're saying. Germans let Jews live there for 800 years, but they never became an epidemic, just like Islam. They come in nice and humble and quiet. They stay to their little lives. And then when there's enough of them, the insurgence begins. You can go from any country, speaking your Yiddish, your encoded language, so that a Jew could go from Vienna to Warsaw to London to Moscow and always have a commonality, be able to speak with his brethren, even though you were in completely different countries, separated many times for hundreds and hundreds of years, but you could permeate any border because you always had a place in someone else's country. Not a Goyim. A German could never just go get a job in England in the 1800s or in Italy or in France because he was going to catch hell. But the Mishpucha permeate any border. To your credit, But don't act like you're always the victim. Because when you come into a country and instigate social engineering, which is what your religion really is, your religion is liberalism. Well, most Gentile Christians aren't liberal of nature. They live and die with a morality and a code given to them by the New Testament and mostly the Protestant ethic. And you never get that. So you go to the most Protestant of all countries, that was Germany, where Martin Luther lived, and you demand that they bend to your liberalism whims. And it worked real good right up until the time the Weimars, who you called fascists, just like you call Trump fascist. So let me give you a warning, Bernie, because you've always done this. It's your playbook. Call a Republican Trump a fascist. You did that with Germany. You called the Weimars fascists. You know what's coming, Bernie? I'm going to tell you. A real fascist. You know how I know? Because that's what happened in Germany. That's what happened in Italy. That's what happened under Torquemada, Ferdinand, and Isabel in Spain. That's what happened in France. That's what happened in Persia. That's what happened in Samaria and Babylon and Egypt. And you never learn your lesson. But you keep doing the same stupid thing every nation you go to over and over again to stand in the face of an American Christian and declare yourself a communist is such an affront to the soul of every Christian American, and you think that's your birthright. You're playing with fire, Bernie, and you know you're an old, silly man. I'm telling you this for the sake of your progeny. Yomashpuka Lavamiya. Look around. Look at all the beautiful Jewish children in this country that may get slaughtered because of your political greed and avarice. And you want to call me the racist? I'm telling you how to save their lives, Bernie. I'm telling you how to save your own people from the next conflagration. But alas, you're Israel. And you will never learn your lesson. And God said that. God said, I will blind you, and you will do the same thing till the end of time. So in the book of Revelation, Boinee, that's the Goyim book, 12,000 from the 12 tribes will be redeemed through the Messiah. When they finally realize that Yeshua really was the guy, he really was, you're going to have a bad day, Bernie, because that day, only 144,000 are redeemed through Christ. Now, that's what it says in the good book. The prophets that wrote that were all Jews. Boinee, not Goyim. So, I doubt you're going to learn because the Bible teaches that you're not. And it isn't because you're dumb. So what is it?